Assalamualaikum. You are now live.
Yeah, thank you.
Alhamdulillah.
Well, I see that we have the Honorable Cheryl Sudduth with us.
Yeah, I am aquí. Yes.
All right. Some warm. You need some warm water and salt for your throat, my sister.
Yes. The some warm water, some cold water, some filtered water, some ionic water. Yeah, all of it.
Man.
All the water. It still is doing what it do.
Okay.
Sounded like a what's that lady name? Raquel Welch or somebody. Yeah, the allergies. They grabbed me. They grabbed a hold of me.
I'm hearing a little Macy Gray.
Okay, yeah, I think that is the name.
I like
That's the
Macy.
name.
I like Macy. I like Macy. I like her. It's a little Inga Rose. You know who Inga Rose is? I sent some of you her music over the weekend. All right, so Inga Rose is before we start, she's a singer who's been, everybody likes her now. She has that song out, Celebrate Me, but she has a lot of other songs out that I need to send it to you, Fleming. You can send it to your wife and your daughters.
Okay.
But she has some really good music out that's very women empowering. And yeah, she is her Nova Soleil and Blue Monroe. Those are my favorite, but they have a nice old school blues sound to them.
My kind of music.
My kind of music. It's just, I was stuck yesterday. I was stuck writing, and yeah, they got me through the day. So yeah, let's go ahead and open up, and then yeah.
All right.
Please, sir, would you do the honors?
Thank you very much. I'm honored to do so. This is MAP5, and this is May 25th, 2026. With our distinguished host, Honorable Cheryl Sudduth, this is Amatullah Alaji-Sabrie, and Brother Fleming El-Amin. And we'll open up with the first surah in the Holy Quran, inshallah. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين.
Yes, sir. God, Monday morning.
Yes.
It is it's been an eventful and rough week. It's been a rough week. And it's been a rough week. It's last Monday. We had received some rough news about Islamic Center in San Diego. And yeah, I'm gonna let somebody else say it because you know, Brother Amin was my friend. So yeah. Yeah. I'll let somebody else tell the news too.
Believe it or not, my youngest son was there in San Diego with his wife and baby. They left the celebration of my granddaughter's graduation and went down there because they live in Denver, Colorado. And so as soon as I heard the news, I called him to make sure he was aware. And he said, Dad, I'm not watching the news. I'm on vacation. I said, son, listen, the tragedy that's happened. We've had two teenagers, go into an Islamic center in San Diego with rifles and guns and all other kind of artillery. And they killed the security guard and two other people. And by the grace of God, those three people prevented them from going into the center where all the children were and other staff members. And the hero of the whole event, of course, was the brother who really shot back at them as they shot toward the facility there, Brother Amin. And he sacrificed his life, basically, to save and protect that staff there. So we honor all three of them. There's a GoFundMe that's circulating, and we here of North Carolina made contributions toward that to hopefully assist the families, but make us all realize, you know, how life is so unpredictable and so fragile. And we have to be security conscious in our facilities and be grateful that it was not worse than it actually was. But it's a tragedy that people have the mindset they can go into a peaceful facility where people are studying and praying and take a human life like that. So inshallah, at least a lot of people responded to it. I know United States Council of Muslim Organizations, our Secretary General, he went out as a part of the press conference, etc. And there were several different faith communities that came together for the press conference, support that facility. So you have, of course, many du'as been made for the community there. And we pray that we can have more unity across religious barometer to assist each other and to support each other instead of criticizing each other so viciously, inshallah. I hope that's summarizes things. Do you want to add any more to that, Sister Amatullah?
Well, I think that the environment, the social media environment particularly, is so hateful, is the word that I can use, towards al-Islam and Muslims, that you know, events like this are almost predictable because when people consume that kind of hateful diet in their minds and in their hearts, then the behavior is going to follow. We do enjoy free speech, one of the rights that we have in this country. And I'm not suggesting that we should curtail it, because that's not the solution, I believe. I think the solution, part of the solution, is, I guess, greater participation with our neighbors and the local communities that we live in, so that our neighbors and people that are around us, that they see Muslims, hopefully, who are not this terrorist boogeyman that they have portrayed. You know, some of these social media influencers. I don't go to X very often, and I think someone sent me a link to X, and when I went on X, you know, the personalities on there, the Islamophobe in chief, Laura Loomer, you know, she spilled out some of her little vile language. And yeah, I mean, I think there were thousands of replies. And just looking at the first maybe 10 or 15, it's just it was I can't say an eye opener, it's just a reminder. Reminder is probably the better word. A reminder of how hateful speech is, and the prophet's admonition to us to say what is good or keep silent. If that were just a impetus that people use on some of these social media platforms, perhaps there would be less of this hateful environment that is created. I pray that we remember the families of these three brothers. Mahdi Hassan on Zateo, he had a sister on who, one of the other brothers, one of the older brothers, her husband was very close to that brother and his family, and their two families were close together. And she gave a beautiful portrayal of the influence of that brother in the community. I don't remember his name right offhand. He was like 51 or 53, something like that. And then also, I think on the Dean show, they may have had a clip. The Islamic Foundation, which is a Dawa kind of organization in San Diego. I'm subscribed to their YouTube. They had a beautiful YouTube. They had done an interview with Brother Amin, because it appears that he was involved in Dawa also. And just from that interview, he came across as a sincere, very sincere, positive young man, and dedicated, sincere, dedicated to the Islamic way of life. He mentioned that his mother took the Shahada after noticing changes in his behavior, and that, his family, I think he said his mother and his sister um, are Muslims and the rest of his family isn't, but how they still have a good relationship, even though not all of his family um, has taken the Shahada. And I think that if anyone sees that video, there could, it would be very difficult to promote the hateful kind of characterization of Muslims that some of these people on these platforms use. And so, I saw the news report of it after we finished our broadcast last Monday, when I went to my phone and I saw. At first, I was thinking it was maybe Masjid Al-Taqwa in San Diego, but and so just the whole week thinking about this and wondering about their family and the community. We just have to keep them all in our prayers. And inshallah, do a good job as a community, all of us, to commit to being active in dawah, or inviting people to get a better understanding of al-Islam and our way of life. There was also, I saw a video, some Christian evangelist, his name is Jay Smith, I think. And this was on YouTube. And just some of the ideas that they promote, there's no historical evidence that Mecca existed. There's no historical evidence that there ever was a man named Muhammad and I was looking at this and I was like, where are these people coming from? There's plenty of historical documentation, but for someone who doesn't know, when they hear these things, they just take it whole cloth. And so I think we just have to be a better force for really modeling in our different communities among our neighbors and colleagues that we work with that that social media image that so many who hate al-Islam and the message of al-Islam, the message of the Quran, that would be countered the more vibrant our life is in American society. So my prayers go out to the family and to the believers in that community. It has to be hard, on them. And we do have to be diligent. We have to be diligent when we go to the masjid, when we're out in the public, um, of, people who actually hate us. That's it for me.
I wanted to pivot today to talk about that as not just this incident, because this incident I don't want to I don't want it to take me out today, but I do want to talk just in general about, I sent you guys a flyer just to say it's a check-in, right? There's only so many of these kind of traumatic events. They not necessarily shooting, but just trauma period that people can withstand, that's without just checking it. Like, how are we doing? How are we doing, just periods, right? And thank you for that, both of you. I'm gonna ask the question of the day, but then I do want to talk about a couple of things, about what that looks like, Sister Amatullah, what you just said, but on the reverse of that, what it also feels like, what it looks like. And then the reverse of that, what's our responsibility? What's our responsibility? Because on the flip side of that, we have some responsibility and accountability on the other side as well. So first, let's start with our question for today, because this is going to be a heavy day. So I'm going to see if we can start with a different thing. I don't know what the question is, because you're going to have to give me the number. So Brother Fleming, I think, gave me the number last time. So sister, what's the number?
Are you sure Fleming gave you the number the last time?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. So the number, what's the range again?
1 to 28.
Make it 15. My childhood friend from elementary school, May 15th was her birthday. Shout out to Karen Watts in the nation's capital.
15. Okay. So again, we have 3 different sections for 15. So 15. What have you learned to take less seriously?
What have I learned to take this seriously? Myself. Myself. If you get children, they'll teach you that lesson. Don't take yourself too seriously. I would say the criticism of the criticizer, if it's just criticism for the sake of criticism. But if it's commentary for advancing improvement, it's welcome. But there are some people, I don't care what you do, they're going to look, they're going to go right to the, you should have done this, you should have done that. And then when you look at them, they're sitting down, dun, 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 dun. So, and don't be discouraged. I've learned not to be discouraged by that because one of my mentors, Amina Rasul, she told me, she said, don't worry about it. It's the person who's not doing anything who's going to criticize. Just keep on doing what you're doing. So that's what I have. Sometimes it's hard, but when you get your feelings out of it, just don't be hampered by those the glass half full people.
Mhm.
I mean half empty, glass half empty people. Anyway, that's my answer.
Sir?
Okay. Mine is very similar. In fact, I have to remind myself, because I'm in the public so often, that, the quote from the Holy Quran, to each is a goal given to the law turns, then strivers in a race toward all that is good. If you just keep your focus on what you're trying to do and dismiss all the distractions or the critique of the criticizers, then you'll get a lot more progress done. And I always remind myself, when I was at 4047 Woodlawn being interviewed by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he asked a question because he spoke in symbolism. He said, "Why don't you hear a tree fall in the forest?" I said, "I don't know." It's called him then, dear Holy Apostle. He said, "Well, when you decide to do something, don't announce it. Let your work speak for itself." It stayed with me, and it stays with me today. We have a program coming up on the 28th, which is Thursday, I believe, entitled Lift Every Vote. And it's a collaboration of different religious groups and community leaders. They asked me to service. I told them write my name down in pencil. That's a chair. But they said, Brother Fleming, because people respect you so much in the community, they will respond to your request or your call to action. But even in that little small group of 6 people, there's one person, no matter what we do, no matter how we build a flyer, build a work site, contact certain people, you forgot to cross that T. That's now I'm learning to just say, thank you, sister. One movement. Because, and then I'm going to sum it up like this. We raised $50,000 for this project. It'll last up until October. She haven't given a dime, but yet she has all this criticism, all this fine tuning, about what we're trying to achieve. We've hired 2 people to run the program for us, but that's another example of how you have to move forward with the goal Allah's given you, and the people come and help you time, so don't be afraid of the critique or the criticizer. We're going to do what Allah asks us to do, regardless, by His grace and mercy. I'm trying to keep this on a light level. We just celebrated my mother-in-law's 99th birthday yesterday. The whole family come back in, and we had a wonderful time. Almost 200 people showed up.
Wow.
It was a wonderful experience, from Colorado to Maryland to all over the country that came to celebrate Marie Allen Matthews' 99th birthday.
99. Woo.
He said, "Babe, you got to MC the program." I said, "Marie, you got a lot of people here." "No, you get up there and do what I tell you to do." I said, "Yes, ma'am." That's all you can say.
That's it.
That's all you can say.
That's it.
Yes, that's it, alhamdulillah. All right.
All right, audience. What have you learned to what's the question?
Not to take
Just take so serious, yes.
Yeah. 15. What have you learned to take less seriously?
No takers.
Mine is pretty similar. I heard this song this weekend. It said I'm built differently. So like I'm not built for convenience. And I built for, I don't schedule lessons. I don't, I don't, what did she say? She said something like, Some people don't understand boundaries. So when they finally collide with one, they don't understand it, you know? My favorite line was something like, I don't match energies. I set the temperature.
Okay.
And so I have just learned to, you know, and when you walk into the room, the atmosphere checks itself. That's how I feel. So I've learned not to be bothered or not to be worried or not to take seriously or not just criticism, but questioning. People's questioning. People always have questions. People always have questions, whether it's your motives or your intentions behind something. Because people, they just question. So I used to think people having that instead of people questioning my motives or my intentions, I used to question their intentions or their motives behind their questions. Like, why are you asking me that? Right? What's your real question? That used to be me. What's your real question?
Question behind the question. Huh?
Yes. So I've learned not to take it so seriously, Brother Fleming, to your point, especially being in public eye or being in the public. You know that there's always a question behind the question. You're not just asking a question. You don't care how I'm doing. That's not what you want something. So what you really want. But I've learned not to take it seriously. I've just learned to just answer the question. If someone asks how I'm doing, I say things, and I always catch them off guard. So ask me how I'm doing. Ask me.
How are you doing?
I'm dancing on the ceiling, baby. How you doing?
Oh, oh boy. If you're on
See,
the ceiling, I guess I'm on the ceiling too.
but ask me again. Watch. I got a different one every time they ask. Ask me again.
All right. All right. How you doing, sis?
I'm swinging from the chandeliers. How you doing?
All right. All right.
You see, and he catches them off guard. I got a different answer. You know, I'm trolloping through tulips. I'm over here racing through the roses. I got a different answer every time. And so people are used to seeing people say fine, good, okay, and I never say that. So my answer is always something that catches people up. So it stops them in their tracks. Like, wait, what'd she say? I said, I'm swinging from the chandeliers. Catch me if I fall. Why don't you get up here and do a duet with me? And so, especially when they're like service workers, like an officer or security officer, or like when I'm at the Capitol, it'll be one of the Homeland Security people or at the airport. And I say, I'm swinging from the chandelier. Don't let me fall. If I fall, you catch me. We got you, sis. We got you, sis. So something like that. So I learned not to take that kind of stuff seriously. And it actually makes people crack and they smile or they don't take themselves so seriously. But I've learned not to take myself so seriously either, because you'll get that line in the middle of your forehead and it's not attractive. Not attractive. Age you a little bit. Yeah. The
Well,
only
I feel like James Brown now since you're on the ceiling. Let me do a little James Brown with
let's dance. We can get some splits and everything.
you. Oh
Get your
man,
yoga
man.
on. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, and you know what, life is no promise, and this kind of what we wanted to talk about today is that some of the things that are happening is because, yes, you know what, life is. I was writing the paper yesterday, and this kind of why I wanted to get to this is that I was writing a paper yesterday, and I started thinking about going back to my grandmother's words always. That, you know what, we spend so much time worried about things. And life is difficult. Life is difficult. And it's just, I don't think any of us are going to get out of this life without having to go through something. some kind of challenge. We're all going to encounter it. We're all going to stumble. We're all going to have setbacks. We're all going to suffer. But it's how we respond to it that is going to be the vast indicator of our character and our constitution, what we're made of. Right? My grandmother used to tell me, they used to say, you know, when people go through things, some people break. Some people break, or it breaks them, right? It breaks them, and they end up conceding or surrendering, and they give up. They let these circumstances and these situations, or even what people call fate, or these events of life, just control what their perspective and their attitude is. And that what dictates your emotional state or decide the so-called destiny. And these kind of why I'm glad you picked this number, because this number kind of falls into that, right? It can change your attitude, and it can change the way you look at things. It can change your perspective. And sometimes we fall down and then we stay down there too long. I failed this weekend. And sometimes I fall and I'm just like, how am I gonna get up? How am I gonna get up from here? Can't reach the crutch. The crutch, I fell once and my crutch kind of slid. I was like, dang, I can't reach it. I can't reach it. I gotta like shimmy over and kind of grab the handle and pull the handle up. And then, but if you fall in a certain way, it's kind of hard to turn and get up. But you got to get up, especially if there's no one around. You got two choices. You got to get up or you got to stay down there. There ain't no other choice. You either got to get up or stay down. That's the choices. And some people stay down too long. And when you do, you let this outside force make the determination for you. And that's when this fetus attitude sets in. Well, I can't do anything, right? And you get this kind of attitude of negativity, and then you accept failure and you accept you can't do anything. Meanwhile, their clock is running. It could be the proverbial clock. If you're running a race, it's the clock for the race. If you're in a game, it's the clock for the game. But in life, it's the clock for life. We were told that when you fall down 7 times, you get up 8. So what do you do? What do we do? Because in our community, we do a lot of this. What I want to talk about this part, because and this is gonna ruffle some people's feathers, and it's okay. Not feathers, we won't have feathers. Hair. Won't ruffle the hair.
Some people don't have hair.
It's true. They got a little bit on their arms. You might not be able to see a little bit, but they got a little bit on their arms, back, legs. They might not have none on the head, but they got a little bit. Here's the problem I see. I was listening to your sister, and I was actually online. I don't go a lot in social media, but I kept seeing the feeds come through, and I was looking on some of the comments in the, not social media, but even on some of the news. But every time one of these stories comes out, something happens, whether it's in the Muslim community, the Jewish community, the Christian community, Islamic community. This is what happens. The finger pointing. But they did this. But what about them? But Zionism is to blame, or anti-hate is to blame, or anti-Muslim sentiment is to blame, or anti-Blackness is to blame, or You know, something you said, both of you say, about getting out into community and getting to know your neighbors. And I think one of the reasons that I participate in interfaith conversations is not just that they can see me as Muslim, but they can see me as a human being. And one of the things that bothers me the most, and this is what I want us to talk about, have a real dialogue about, is that we also have culpability because we, meaning the community, has a bad habit of saying negative things about Christians and negative things about Jewish people and not owning that bad dialogue, that negative dialogue. But we will put negative accountability on Christian community or on Jewish community. But we won't own our own. We won't take accountability for ourselves. And I saw that dialogue even just this week from some of the emails from some of our most prominent organizations. Yes, that mayor should be held accountable for some of his anti-Muslim, Islamophobic, anti-Palestinian rhetoric. He most certainly should be held accountable for it. But we also need to be held accountable because some of the rhetoric that we have done has not worked towards building a more unified community. And I don't mean a unified Muslim community. I said a unified community. Because none of us live in a solely Muslim community. None of my neighbors are Muslim. But I want to get along with my neighbors. Because some of my neighbors come over and ask us when they go on vacation, we look out for them. And they look out for us. So that's the conversation I want us to have. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
And I was looking for I have so many different Holy Qurans. I wanted to refer to the second surah, but I have to go from memory because I work a lot in the interfaith community. And I always start off with this one quote from the Holy Quran, that those who follow the Jewish scriptures, those Christians, Sabians, and Muslims, will have the reward with the Lord, and neither shall they grieve. And it sets the pace for us to understand each other as the human beings that we are. A lot was done during Prophet Muhammad's life, peace upon him and his family, and all those who believe, and the religion of Islam. He set a pattern that too few of us really follow. And I'll just say this and I'll be quiet. Why would a Muslim leader, the last Rasul from Almighty God Allah, send his early congregation to a Christian king to save them? Now, those that know the history, this whole community had been boycotted for 3 surge years. He was trying to wipe all of them out. And who did he turn to protect them? A Christian leader in what we call today Ethiopia. It wasn't called that then. And he refused to give them back to the people who were trying to pursue them, to take them back to what we call Saudi Arabia today. So he had that kind of insight in the 600 AD. Why don't we have that insight today, even more so? And I'll try to conclude in these 30 seconds. A female rabbi friend of mine said, Fleming, we have to stop elbowing each other off the line of faith because none of us really know until we get there what it's all about. And what she was trying to say, we got to learn to work together as one human family, hold each other's faith positions and postures so we can all, in her words, get to the other life. But it makes a lot of sense, a lot of sense. So, and when you work with people, you really don't have to pronounce what your faith is if you really have a common goal with each other. The faith will be indicated by the work that you do for the community's sake. And I question a brother, we have circles sometimes, we get together. I say, brother, what did you do after prayer this morning? After you pray, what are you doing for the community? Don't take that the wrong way now. But, our religion is a religion of action. Even praying requires activity. You go from that posture, of course, to other activities, but you got to be doing something with the life that Allah's given you. Instead of just quoting things, you got to be doing some community service on some level for the sake of humanity. And those of us that sort of get around a little bit, we always say that Almighty God sent us Prophet Muhammad as a service to all of mankind. What are you doing to service mankind in your daily life? Inshallah. My 30 seconds.
Well, Brother Fleming, thought came through my mind. We are in the month of Dhul Hijjah, and those of us who are still at home, we're going about in our daily lives, making our prayers, doing actions, working, whatever. And our brothers and sisters who have traveled to Mecca, which is a real city, which has been in existence, are engaged in the first day of Hajj, that pillar of faith in the Islamic life. And in the Quran, Allah tells us that we're brought together there in Hajj so that we will know one another. And that's a very important part of the ritual of Hajj. Those who have made Hajj, you know that when you go there, you see people from all over the world. You'll see people who, well, that looks like Aunt Mabel. Oh, that looks like Cousin Jake. Oh, that looks like Ahmed back in Neil Peters. You'll see all of these human beings from the four corners of the earth, and you can see a physical similarity in people that you know. And then you can see of course, the spiritual similarity is there because we're performing the same rituals and all of that. But you can also see, even with the diverse cultures, you can see a thread. I'll call it the human cultural thread. The culture shows up in different forms, but essentially, the cultural expression is in the same areas. For example, maybe the foods. You might have bread. Okay, Americans might have their whole wheat, whole grain bread. The Eritrean may have his injera. I think that's the name for the bread that they have. You got the pita bread, but you got bread. These people from the four corners of the world, they got bread. Okay, they have drinks. Everybody got to drink the water. I don't care. And when you taste that Zam water, it's like, wow. If you just think of Zam and the uh, the whole story behind Zam, how that spring from the time of Hajj, African woman, out in the desert all by herself, seeking and running from hill to hill to try and find some water for the baby that she's left there with by, well, just the fact the Prophet Ibrahim. When she asked him the question, did God tell you to do this? Just leave us here in this desert. I can't even imagine how desolate it would have been. If you look at Mecca today, just try to go back in your mind to imagine desert, no visible sign of water, no visible sign of nourishment. But the thing that kept her going was faith. And the thing that she was looking for was right there at the feet of her baby, the water kicks up. And a lot of this is symbolism, but at the baby's feet, you find this spring, the water kicks up. And that spring has continued until today by the will of Allah. And so Cheryl talked about how life is hard, and we know Allah tells us in the Quran that with the difficulty is the ease. So the difficulty there and the ease is right there too. We have to have the faith uh, to persevere so that we can experience the ease. And I think I mentioned, if it, maybe it was on a call we were on, Cheryl. I wasn't aware of this trend in social media and influencers where they're promoting, looking for the easy life, And when I first heard that, I was like, well, you're in for a rude awakening, baby, because life is not going to always be, it wasn't easy unless maybe your mother was sedated for you to come out of that womb. That was I can remember one of the first lectures that Imam Muhammad gave. He was saying, you talk about trauma, if you were aware, if we were aware now of the trauma that we experience as that baby coming out of that womb, we may not be able to survive that. Our poor little hearts may not be able to survive that trauma. And so that is just a symbol of that life is going to be hard. That life is going to be a struggle, but you have to have faith, first of all, persevere, and look for the blessing in the struggle, in the trial, in the test, whatever. So it's good for us to reflect on what the pilgrims are experiencing now in Mecca. I know my husband and I had this conversation yesterday or day before on one of the apps, Islamic Finder. I have apps, and sometimes they have, well, every day they have a little short video of something going on. And this one little video was of Mina, tent city, right? And it was showing this renovation or this project that the government there has built out. And depending on when you made Hajj, you have a different memory of what Mina was like. Some people actually maybe got into a tent. Some of us, depending upon what time you got to Mina, you might have just been out in the desert and threw up something over you and called that a tent. But what they had constructed, or what they were showing, and I don't know how many of them they have to accommodate people, was these facilities where they had these fold out, it looked like it was a foam kind of area, and one right by the other this was in a tent that looked like it was air conditioned, looked like it had a fan, and then they showed the restrooms, and they showed where they had the sinks. And for someone who made Hajj maybe in 70 or 90 or maybe even 10 years ago, that is a definite upgrade from what your experience was whenever you made the Hajj. So why am I saying this? I'm saying that from stage to stage to stage, there is progress. There is a different experience, a different lived experience. But in all of that, there is still hardship too, but there is ease that is provided. But you have the hardship of, you may have 2 million people there with you at the same time. And can you deal with being in that limited environment with 2 million people? Do you have the adab, where you have the patience, where you're not, you said your rabbi friend gave you the picture of, we have to stop elbowing one another. if you're talking about elbow, and elbows are everywhere when you in Hajj, when you trying to make that tawaf around the Kaaba, when you go to stone the Jamara, you know. So I'm just saying that we are blessed. Allah has blessed us with the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, with his example, with the revelation, the direct instruction from Allah, from God, the Creator, the one who created us, to give us. I remember Imam Muhammad saying, "This is our manual for human beings, not just for Muslims, but it's a manual for human beings how to make it through," as you were saying, Fleming, across that finish line into the next existence. Um, and the test is, do we study it? Do we know it? Do we believe in it? Do we accept the guidance? Do we try to, when Allah gives us this call to action, because we have call to action in the Quran of the believer and what the believer does, what the believer says, do we try to do that? And I think that is the challenge for us. And, we have these traumatic events that serve as a reminder for us to perhaps seek refuge with Allah and the revelation and the example of the Prophet to be able to get through these times. So, a lot of talk, but that's kind of my check-in for the day.
Off 5 seconds, Sister Cheryl. Thank you so much for putting me on the clock. She reminded me of when I used to do staff development with teachers. I get this from Dr. Lana Chabad. Some of you may remember him. He said, when you see each other, you should see three entities. You'll see a physical person, a mental person, and a spiritual person. Physical part of you is very easy to describe. The mental part, you got to be around the person a little bit to describe that personality. Are they curious? They have a natural instinct for development in terms of intellectual growth. But that third part, when it comes to character, are they honest? Can you rely on them? Are they trustworthy? That takes a much longer term and time investment to get to know the person like that. He was trying to get us to see that indeed every person you see is evolving at 3 levels at all the time. And you got to be aware of that sometimes and be kind, because all of us develop in stages. All of us will change in time. Mm-hmm. Easiest one to change is your physical existence. Guaranteed. And the one that's the same should be your mental attitude and appetite to still be developing as a person. And then the one that people really talk about you, when you return back to Allah, it's a character. Oh, that guy, I could trust him with a dime. He'd give it back to me tomorrow. Oh man, I couldn't trust him with 5 cents. I'd never see it again. Well, he's a real reliable person, and he will do what he says he's going to do. And I'm just saying it because it sort of reminds me of how important it is to see each other's human value. None of us have access to being anything close to perfect. We're all developing. We're all developing by the grace of Allah. So let's be kind to each other. I'm going to stop right there. My 5 seconds.
I want to, before I check in, I want to check in with the audience, because I want to take us through an exercise just to check in and see something.
Well, I don't see any hands.
All right, good. Maybe this will help with the hands. All right, when's the last time you either drove or been in a car or let's start with a grocery store. Oh, go ahead, Sister Mazen.
Mahasan, go ahead. You raised your hand.
Yes, I anticipated and kind of jumped in, but I'd love to hear your question before I respond. Thank you.
All right. So here's the first of 2 exercises. I'm going to give you 2. I'm going to give you the first exercise is going to be, I'm going to put you on mute for a second, Sister Hasan, just because.
Sure, no problem. No problem.
Thank you. First exercise is this one. I'm going to give you 1, grocery store. Second one, car. Set the stage for you. First one's grocery store. Last time you've been in a grocery store, you're in a hurry. Every day adulting. It's my children call it. Everyday adulting. And I'm telling you this because, I've been speaking at a lot of graduations. I have one coming up this week, Black graduation on Thursday. And so average adult day, get up in the morning, go to your challenging job, white collar, whatever, blue collar, whatever job. So you're going to work hard. Your 8 hours, 10 hours, whatever it is you work. At the end of the day, tired. Might be stressed out, and all you want to do is get home. But before you get home, you've been thinking about dinner all day. So whether you're the one who has to prepare dinner or you're the one who has to stop by the store to get the dinner, get the ingredients for dinner, you have to stop at the store. And all you're thinking about is, I want some food and I gotta unwind. And then I want to go to bed because I'm tired. And I gotta get up the next day and do the same thing all over again. And so you remember that you have to go to the store because those main ingredients are not there. So work has been really challenging. So you're carrying this weight on you. And I know that we've all been there. We've all been there, right? So you're in the car, you take that drive to the store, you're carrying all that in. You get that call from your spouse or your child, and they're telling you all the things that have been going on in their life. So you're carrying that. Your child is, Mom, you never gonna believe what happened today at school. Or don't forget, now I'm gonna talk to the ones who have smaller children. It's my day to bring snack tomorrow. Don't forget. How many children in your classroom? 45. And the teacher said you can't bring the Costco cookies this time. 15 of the children have allergies to peanuts. So you got to bake the cookies or the cupcakes or whatever, and you can't bring anything with red dye of 15, whatever. So you're already like, yes, okay, dear, thank you. Then you get a call from whoever, your spouse, and they're telling you about their miserable day, or somebody almost sideswiped them. So you got all this sitting on you, husband, wife, whatever. So traffic's really bad because there's an accident or they rerouted you and you've got a tour. So traffic's bad and you've got all that sitting, and then you get a call from the office and they forgot to tell you something, and some projects do. So you got to come to work early tomorrow. Or if you're like me, they need you to log in when you get home and look at this urgent project because the 10 hours you just gave them wasn't enough. You need a couple more when you get home. And the traffic, according to Murphy's Law, has to be really bad that particular day. So getting to the store takes way longer than you thought it would. And all the other people with jobs just happen to need to go to the store that day too. So you all get there. And so the parking lot is especially full. So now you got to park next to the person who looked like they haven't had insurance in 2 years. And you got to park at the end of the parking lot. So you park your car, you make your way, and you try to squeeze in that grocery shopping. And the store is, for whatever reason, it's got those old lights that flicker. So it's hideously lit. You, like me, got a migraine, and it's got some soul-killing music going on. You already got it. You know you don't want to listen to it. He's got that soul-killing music or that crazy corporate pop music going on, and that's the last place you want to be because the next person on the other aisle is singing at the top of their lungs because they thought they were the reincarnation of Britney Spears or whoever. and they can't carry a tune, so you got to listen to that. And everybody's racing around with them carts, and the only cart that was available to you is the one with the one bad wheel. So you thought you was gonna get done, but you can't, because all the people are running around and they're tired, and you trying to maneuver that old junky cart through the. I don't push a cart because you know I'm on crutches. I got the bag, but you get the picture. So what should have been in and out becomes a long ceremony. Eventually, you get your supper supplies after you have to fight people in the aisles to get it. Except now, you get up front and it's not enough checkout lanes open. Because right when you get up front, two of the people have to go on break. Of course. And there's only one person at the self-checkout, and all of those are full. So the lines are snaking around the building. But, you know, which is just dumb, and it's infuriating, and everybody is fussing. But you can't take your frustration out on a frantic little lady cashier working the register, because she already looked like she overworked and underpaid and just trying to get through her day. And plus, it would be meaningless. So you finally get to the front. You pay for your food. And she says, "Have a nice day." In a voice that sounds like she'd rather be anywhere but there, and it sounds like death warmed over. "Have a nice day." So you take your little flimsy bag that looked like the food about to fall out the bottom of it, and that one basket with the crazy wheel, and you trying to get through that little crowded parking lot that's got litter everywhere, and that crazy bumpy thing that you have to get over in the parking lot. And you try and maneuver through the cars that act like they can't see you because they're trying to get out, and you trying to get across. So you got to play like it's bumper cars. And you try to get through so that you can drive home. And all you see is slow, heavy traffic with a whole bunch of SUVs and a whole bunch of them electric vehicles, and they all look alike. Everybody's been through it. It can't just be me. And you go through that routine day after day, month after month. And it becomes very meaningless. And you go through it. And while you're going through it, you silently cursing these people who are in your way and keeping you from getting home and getting your food. And you're already doing it in the line. You're like, what are these people doing? Why are they in my way? I just need to get to the cashier, pay for my food, and get home. Why are they in my way? Then you get in the car and you're like, where are these people? Why are they in my way? Honk, honk, move. I got somewhere to go. Why this stupid person cut me off? Why are they in my way? Because now you're hungry and you're tired and you just want to get home. And now everybody in the world is in your way. Who are these people? Anyway, why didn't they leave earlier? Why are they in my way? Ugh, look at these people. Ugh. And you look to your left and you see this person with this long face and mean look on their face, and you're thinking about how repulsive they look. And you look to your right and you look and you see that person, you look, man, they just look so unhappy. And and they seem so annoyed with life, like they don't want to be there. Same as the people who were in the checkout line with you. And when you were in the checkout, you were already mad at the people who were on their phone talking all loud, talking about what they're gonna eat for dinner, and you were mad at them too. Now you're looking at the people in the cars, and as you're driving, you start looking at the back of the cars, and you're looking at all these old huge lane blocking SUVs and Hummers and pickup trucks and what do you call it? The big trucks, and you thinking about them. Only look at them. He's so selfish, burning all this natural gas, and aren't we in a crisis with these old 40-gallon tanks of gas? What kind of, is that a flag on the back of his truck? What they say, vote for who? Look at him. You ain't patriotic. You got a religious sticker? What they say? I figured he was one of them. Look at her. She ain't patriotic. I break for what? That's disgusting, old selfish. Why that lady yelling at her child in the middle of the store? Why she yelling at him? That little boy don't know no better. Did she just pop his hand because he touched the candy? Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Oh, these people disgusting. No, I won't let you over. I've been waiting too. Huh? These people too aggressive. Nope. Nope. I'm gonna leave 2 inches between me and the driver in front of me because I'm tired too. I want to get home too. You can't get over. No. Show you. Nope. Nope. Mm-mm. These people screwing up the climate. They're spoiled and they're stupid and they're selfish and they're disgusting. Oof. Society sucks. You get the idea.
That was a performance that was worthy of an Emmy.
Now.
What's the question?
Now. I want you to think about, I know we do this because people choose to think this way in the store and on the freeway. Lots of people do it because thinking this way, and it tends to be so easy and automatic that it doesn't have to be a choice, right? It's like a natural default setting, and it's an automatic way that people think because they tend to experience the boring, frustrating parts of our adult life, right? And when you're operating this automatic, unconscious belief that you are the center of the world, that your immediate needs and feelings should determine the world's priorities. The thing is that, of course, there's a totally different way to think about all of these situations. This is how I taught my children, especially about driving and about the store. Let's talk about the traffic first. In the traffic situation, all those cars that are stopped and idling in the way when you're driving home, I tell my children this all the time when they were learning how to drive. Think about it from this perspective. What if the people driving SUVs, mommy vans, big trucks, what if driving a small car scares them? What if they had been in a really bad accident and this huge SUV makes them feel safe? What if it wasn't about, even though in your mind you're thinking about the gas, guzzling and all of that, but they're thinking safety? What if the person that cut you off is being driven by somebody who has a child in the back who's hurt or sick, and all he's worried about is trying to get their child to the hospital? And he is in a much bigger hurry than you trying to get home and eat and watch the game. And you're actually in his way rather than you're in their way. What if the lady in the checkout who you mean mugging because her wig is tilted and she got too much makeup on, and you sitting here judging her about, dang, she looked like that lady from The Office with Drew Carey. What if, work with me now, what if that was the same lady who helped your husband, your wife, your daughter, your sister or brother? What if I told you she worked at the DMV and she helped them get that car registered where they was having a hard time because somebody stole their identity and they couldn't get their car registered, they couldn't get their ID, and she helped them through a very difficult process, and it took 2 hours, and she helped them figure that problem out. What if a person who was fussing at her child in the line because they kept touching candy bar on the shelf? What if I told you that the child was touching the candy bar that had nuts in it and they were severely allergic to nuts, and the parent smacked their hand to keep them from touching it because the child would have went into anaphylactic shock simply from touching that package with the nuts, and the parent knew it, but the child could not read, so the child didn't know it? What if? Of course, some of this could not be likely. Some of it could be that you mean. But some of it is very likely. People have hard, tedious, painful lives. They have a lot going on. And all I'm saying is that sometimes you have to be more aware that there are choices and that you have a choice to look at things outside of what feels of yourself. You have a choice to say, you know what? Maybe that person who's having a hard day, who's running around, who looks a certain way, or who looks ragged, who looks busy, who looks like who's short, and who may have appeared rude to you, maybe that overweight, dead-eyed, over made up woman has been up for the last 3 days at the hospital with her husband who's had cancer, who had whatever, and this is the only 15 minutes she gets to run into the store and grab something to eat. Maybe she don't usually look like that. We have a choice. One of you said, I can't remember if your sister Amatullah, you, Fleming, maybe you both said it, about being kind to people, even if I don't know their story. I don't need to know if their story. I don't need to know if they're Muslim. I don't need to know if they're Christian. I don't need to know if they're Jewish. I don't need to know if they're Buddhist or agnostic or atheist. I don't need to know. I just need to treat them with humanity. Yeah, so what? They cut me off. As I told my children, when somebody cuts you off, you don't need to. I was telling you that the story's about matching energy. I need to match energy. Determine the temperature. You can determine the temperature. There's a sign in my neurologist's office that says, you are responsible for the energy you bring into this room. I can't control other people's energy, but I control my own. And so I bring this back. I want to talk. This is what I wanted you guys to respond to. I bring this back to the accountability factor of Muslims. I'm not responsible for anti-Muslim sentiment. I'm not responsible for Islamophobia. I'm not responsible for anti-Black conversations. I'm not responsible for that. But I am responsible for how I respond to it. I am responsible for my constitution. My grandmother used to say, we don't change who we are based on who they are. We don't change who we are based on who they are. And too often I see that our responses match energies. Our responses match energies. If somebody, now I'm good for this. I'm gonna admit it. I'm good for this. Because I'm good for a fight. I like a good fight. I like a good fight. But I'm also good for, interesting that you say that. Interesting that you say that. The question I asked earlier about, our question of the day, about what have you learned to take less seriously? And both of you said about criticism and other people's, and I agree in other people's opinion. I think we say that with our mouths, but how many of us are practicing that? If somebody has a negative opinion of Islam, and instead of matching the energy, but showing it with our actions, rather than what, and I'm not saying you to do this, I'm saying we have to find a way, instead of sitting there and being keyboard warriors and doing the whataboutism, but you did this and you did this. There has to be another way, because it's not working. It's not working. And it's this, we have a personal Olympics, is the religious Olympics. This faith Olympics. That we can't, it's this belief that we can't all exist. It's the same, that only one can be right. Only one can exist. If it's only one God, then how is it? It's only one creator. Then how is it that you cannot be expressive of your relationship with God without tearing down someone else's humanity? That's what I want. That's why I wanted to bring this example to you. I don't think that I, Cheryl, am the center of the universe. But I do think there are people who think that they are. I invite you to comment. Sir. Just 1 second, Sister Hassan. Just 1 second.
Oh, you weren't ready for me. Okay.
No, not yet, not yet. The host first, and then I'll grab you, okay? Sister Amatullah and Brother Fleming.
Fleming went off camera. Smart move, Brother Fleming. So you are asking me, or you want me to respond for the different scenarios that you place. Well, we all have those days, and I'm sure that people were able to relate to them. The different scenarios that you demonstrated for us. I think that you got to bring it back to, there's a common expression that you hear people say, well, we have to extend grace to one another. So I interpret that to mean we have to be kind, we have to be patient, and just you know, when you look at a situation or something, it's like realistically, unless the person is stretched out and it seemed like they had a heart attack or that allergic reaction that you're talking about, I mean, you know, it's really no big deal. It's not the end of the world that the woman's wig is on twisted and she told you in a dry manner, have a good day. I mean, you know, in the scheme of things, just how important is that? So just be patient and don't be arrogant. A lot of our problems in society is the arrogance that we all have in any, you know, given moment. So those things that you described, just a reality of people existing in society. How did the prophet say, you know somebody when you work with them, when you live with them, when you travel with them? So all of those scenarios you put together have one of those elements, either working with people, traveling with them, or living with them. Living in quotes as far as in the close quarters of a grocery store. But that's all I have to say. I'm interested in what Mahassan might have to say, or Brother Fleming.
Brother Fleming?
I'll try to keep mine at 30 seconds. I had the pleasure of being in LA driving from Anaheim to LA very recently, in fact. So I was thinking back to that. She was giving such a A1 performance, the Honorable Cheryl Sudduth. I mean, everything came to mind. But here's a very specific thing that happened. Here we are celebrating my granddaughter's college graduation. Name of that restaurant. They serve a lot of pasta.
Olive Garden.
Thank you, Olive Garden. And we're having a good time, and you know, festive occasion because 15 of us came to LA to celebrate with her. All of a sudden, I see my granddaughter moving around rapidly to another part of the restaurant, and my instinct says something is wrong. I followed her and two or three of my other little relatives. She's upset. Now, I didn't know the origin of why she was upset then. I knew she was asking another young graduate, why was she saying this about her? And it got to the point where it almost got physical. So I sort of prevented the whole thing from happening by the grace of Allah, but it could have been her violence, right? And so we got everything settled down. You know, the cops came, and I have a badge. I'm an honorary deputy sheriff of Forsyth County. And I, you know, sort of got things by the grace of Allah settled again with no major injuries. Okay.
I'm not going to travel with you and your family, Fleming.
Not my intent, believe me, sis. It was not my intent.
You got to pull out your sheriff's badge. Come on.
To calm everybody down. So you want to go home? You want to get arrested? Which one do you want to do? No, but anyway, I didn't go that far. But I said, listen, we got to calm this down. We're here to celebrate, not to agitate. So just, you know, calm down. And I sort of sit down. These grown women try to attack my baby, you know, girl here. It's not going to happen, you know. So I eventually got her escorted outside. I went back in the restaurant. I talked to the people at the table. And by the time I got over there, the cops showed up. So I said, listen, I'm an honorary deputy sheriff deputy from Forsyth County, and I think we've calmed this down, but let's make sure that's the case. So I went to the table again, and the grandfather, he said, sir, I am so sorry it's happened like this. We're just supposed to be celebrating. I don't know what the beef is between these two girls. I said, well, good. I feel the same way. Let's celebrate. Let's have a good time. Now, we had just left the university. They had a fantastic Kente celebration, which I'd never witnessed before for all the graduates, African-American graduates, right? Gave each one of them a name specific to their character. Beautiful celebration. I said, somebody didn't hear a thing they said at the celebration to honor each other and respect each other, etc. Y'all want to go to, you know, battle each other over what somebody said 10 years ago. Long story short, I found out that the auntie and her sister approached my granddaughter in the bathroom and told her specifically, you don't want your A beat today. These are grown women now, 50-ish. I didn't find out about that until after the cops had left. Had I known that then, I would have been stepping in my necks. But you don't threaten my family like that. I think you're just going to walk away from the situation. And that's what angered my little grandbaby, who's very sensitive. She's been in South Africa. She's been in Costa Rica. She's on her way to Hawaii to celebrate. She left yesterday. Very calm person, but she was highly irritated. And I found out later on why it happened. So, Mr. Cheryl, in terms of us seeing things a little differently, I did not even realize that 2 years ago, these two girls were the best of friends. I had no idea. I'm learning this after the fact, right? I'm just trying to break up a fight. But 2 years ago, they were the best of friends. Something happened. They stopped speaking to each other, but apparently it was not resolved because it was that close to the surface, explode like that in a restaurant. So I talked to the manager afterwards. I said, listen, I think it's resolved. When the little sheriff guys came in, I said, I think it's okay. I don't think it'll be any more, disturbance in the restaurant. And then went outside. When the young older sister came up and said, can I pray for your child? She thought she was my child. I said, sure. She said a prayer I have not heard since my father prayed, that I've never forgotten. She was so sincere. She said, I don't know what happened, but I think she needs prayer right now. So her perception was just coming to the aid of the situation. And she did. And I said, wow, boy. Had I known that, my position would have been a little differently than what it was. Still would have broken up a potential fight. No doubt about that. But it's just another small example of how life can take its own course sometimes. You got to be in a position to be calm about the matter, to try to understand positions of people. And life is like that. I think the reference that our sister said earlier about what Imam Muhammad said, if we just remember the trauma we got through as a baby, going from a one-cell animal to a multi-cell animal, coming out of the womb of your mother, your head has to be, almost flat enough for you to escape that small space. And of course, in time, get a full picture of what you look like in terms of physicality anyway. And I'm just sharing that. I know you took 30 seconds at least, but the things that you said are so practical. We all go through it. 2 more seconds. At the activity yesterday, I told you about my 99-year-old mother-in-law being celebrated. We had a reservation list. We had an RSVP to be in. Everybody was in the place, and I saw this lady coming in. The last person, she was dressed in red. It was a red and white or black, suggested dress attire. She had on a red blouse. I thought she was one of the guests, but the people checking off the registration had left the table. So I go up there, and she said, "Oh, I thought this was a church." Because no, not a church service. We're celebrating my mother-in-law. And she said, can I have a plate of food? I said, sure, we have plenty of food here. Come on in and get your plate of food, And 30 seconds later, sir, I'm living across the street. All I need is $40. Oh my God. Set up already. My wife gonna chew me up and chew me down. People letting her in here because she had a list not to let people in. There you go, you're so hard. But we gave her some food. She got about maybe 2 or 3 plates. Then she came back and said, I don't need $40. No, I just need 25. I said, sis, I don't carry money with me. I carry a card. If I can help you that way, well, it'll be all right, sir. Thank you for the food. Right? But she was basically houseless. I said, okay, so learn this new language to my grandchildren. And I thank Allah for allowing me to have at least a sensitivity to give her some food away, basically. Because you don't know what the circumstances are of others. Until you see yourself in the person you're talking to, you're not attached to them. You got to have empathy. I went over 30 seconds. I know. I'm done. Thank you, Sister Cheryl.
Thank you, brother. Sister Moss.
Oh, okay. Alhamdulillah. Such an interesting listening experience. We probably need a corps of storytellers, right?
Mhm.
And I would title the book, if I wrote it about the accounts that the three of you just shared, I would call it The Overwhelming Complexities of Life. And the way that my mother and father raised me, I'm grateful because they prepared me to expect complexities in life. See, most of the time, we're not pairing our expectations with the realities that really exist. Our expectations exceed, most times, the reality of what exists. So I love it when your grandmother takes possession of you. Your voice changes, your accent changes, and we get the benefit of her overwhelming sharing of wisdom through you. And I want to commend you as you try to always events out of whatever you're sharing. The best case scenario, I call it. Best case scenario. We thank you for that. And it is so critical, especially Sister Cheryl and the other hosts, at this time, for us to be conscious, intentionally conscious and aware that we can be certain this day that I get up and approach my life, there is going to be some complexity or test or challenge that I'm going to have. What did our parents say? That's got your name on it. That I'm going to have to deal with. Am I prepared? Am I ready to be my best self? Strive to remember to be my best self when the whole circumstance is going in the opposite direction. So in answer to your question, I'm not going to extend my time. I'm aware of the needs of the broadcast. My question is, like the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts, are we prepared? Sister Amatullah was talking about the blessing of the manual of life, operations, the Quran. Are we connected with that on a basis that it comes to our rescue, no matter what we face? Are we ready to live life on its best frequency every day, if possible, if we can remember, if we can call it up? Are we surrounded with people, final question, that support that, who know us, maybe love us, and want the best to come out of us? Do we surround ourselves? Are we blessed with family, friends, and associates who bring the best, care enough to bring the best out of us? I wonder. I used to sing a song in high school, a cappella choir. I wonder, as I wander out under the skies, and I find myself personally often transported to the Garden of Gethsemane when Allah spoke to Prophet Isa alayhi about the impending, seeming tragedy he was supposed to face. That was in Allah's plan for him. And he asked Allah, pleaded, can you pass this cup from me? Can you just not allow this to happen? Because the Romans are coming for me, right? It's the middle of the night, but they coming for me. And Allah said, I can't, because this is the destiny that I have written for you. But I got it. No one will be able to lay a hand on you. I promise. And I never break my promise. That's what life, the saving grace of life, can give us if we believe it. Inshallah, I'll stop right there. Loving your program.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mahassan.
There's a there's a there's something I think it's Madison. There's something you're reminding me of that I used to. It was a saying that I go back to when I was a little girl. My grandmother used to say to me, my mom, my grandmother. I go back and forth between the two of them if you ever pay attention to me, because she
Yes.
used to say they
Yeah.
say, there's this gift. Like you have a gift, you have a gift. If you have this gift, you have this obligation to, it's one thing to motivate people, it's another thing to move people, right? Don't strive to motivate people, you strive to move people.
Mm-hmm.
And I never understood what that meant when I was a little. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I don't know what they're talking about. These women be talking. I listen to them, but I know what they're talking about. I just say,
I know. I was going to say, and you be listening, like the kids
I
say.
listen, I sit
We
down,
we were ear hustling.
I listen. Well, let's say, grab a patch of carpet and have a seat. So I grab a patch of carpet, I have a seat. And you'll sit down and you listen to them. And I used to listen, and I didn't understand what it means. I knew it made me different, but I didn't know what it means until later, right? I could memorize things, I could understand things, but I didn't understand what it meant. But I understand the whys in the hows of life excited me a lot. And I understand this. I understand that our service is, and this is for everybody who does service, our service, whether it's community service or serving in public office, Brother Fleming, or serving in community or in organization, Sister Amatullah, is steeped in this really deep understanding that not only is life for living, but it is for giving. It is for the giving of the gifts that you've been provided. If you have not seen, Sister Amatullah facilitate a meeting, you miss out on something. Nobody facilitates a meeting like her. It's a gift. It is definitely a gift. So there's something this very rare in people who choose to follow. I won't say choose to do, because some people have gifts that they don't choose to accept or acknowledge or I forget the word I'm looking for.
Express.
Express, or no, like accept, like you have
Acknowledge and utilize.
utilize. They don't do it. And I remember hearing that if you don't, it can be taken away, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah, that's
God,
what my mother used to say. You
yeah,
lose
God
it.
can take it. God gives it to you, he can take it away from you, right?
Yeah. If you don't use it, you lose it.
You lose that gift. And so I often watch people misuse or don't know of their gift.
Mhm.
So I wanted to say this part. So I was writing, and then I looked back at a journal, and it say something like this: many of us start with great intentions and grand ideas on how we want to change the world, but it takes more than just grand ideas. Much more. It takes hard work. It takes faith. And it takes patience. But most of all, it takes hope. We need hope. We need hope because hope is the thing that helps push forward in hard times. Hope is what will help us fight injustices without sacrificing the fight itself. We need hope because hopelessness is the enemy of justice. Hope allows us to stand up when we're told to sit down or when we're pushed down. Hope gives us the strength to speak when we're told to be quiet or when we're being silenced. Because no matter what the world tells us, one thing we know for sure is that the opposite of poverty is not wealth. It's justice. So it's not how we treat the wealthy, the well-off, the privileged that matters. It's how we treat the poor, the disenfranchised, the unheard, the disfavored. Mi abuela used to say, we all need justice. We all need favor. We all need mercy. We all need hope. And we all need a measure of unmerited grace.
Alhamdulillah.
And I think sometimes we get so focused on fighting that we forget that there's something that we need to fix. So part of what my focus is on the fix, not just the fight. So what I would like for us to commit to is focusing on the fix, not just the fight. Because it's tempting just to fight and fight and fight, and then lose sight of what are we fighting for? What are we fighting for? And then how do we get to that? I like to work backwards. I like to look at what's the solution and then work backwards to get to it, rather than just going throwing haymakers and then you're leaving yourself exposed. So we need to focus on the fix, not just the fight. Brother Edward Willis, sir.
Assalamu alaikum to everyone.
Alaikum assalam, sir.
What you just ended with, Sister Cheryl, I think is extremely important. And that is having a strategic plan of where you want to end up. And I think using the Quran and certain examples from the Sunnah of the Prophet of how some of those things were accomplished in their time, at least the philosophy of them, is a good start toward that. But when you were talking about motivation versus movement, and what you're basically talking about is the ability to engage people to get them to move in the direction toward success. And a lot of times we do something that the prophet did once, or at least it was explained that he did once when he turned away from a particular man to talk to wealthy people, right? He shushed that man who was trying to get his attention, and it was focused on the wealthy. Instead of making choices that I'm going to spend more time with the poor and their needs and all of this, as opposed to the wealthy, the Islamic concept that I practice is I treat everybody the same. When I walk into a room, And a lot of times I'll walk into an event and I really don't know the majority of the people there. Right. And if I'm greeting people and their hands out reaching to me to, oh, they're looking at my name tag or something, I don't know their status in life. Right. I mean, and it should not matter to me what their status in life is. But my interaction with them, what I want for them, how I present myself to them should be the same, no matter. Now, there are times when protocol is involved, and we know when those situations exist, and you're going to have to follow a certain protocol. But I'm just talking about in general, right? My good friend Ron Kirk, when he was mayor of Dallas, I greeted him exactly the same as I would greet a mechanic. Got the same care from me, same consideration, same focus if they were talking to me. And I think without even announcing ourselves as Muslim or wearing a particular dress that shows us to be Muslim, is that when you have those kinds of interactions with people, along the way, they're eventually going to say, "Are you Muslim?" Right? It gets through to them. And we have to acknowledge that they watch us. That they want to see the reality. They've heard about it, but they want to see the reality. And we get many, many, many opportunities to show that reality, from the clerk in the grocery store to the person who will not allow us to pull forward to put gas in our car, even though they're done. Now they're going to go spend 20 minutes inside the store, right? You're going to have an opportunity to engage people, and you're going to have an opportunity to be the best that Islam has to offer. That has to be key with us in every interaction that we have, no matter who it is that we're engaging with, that we be the best that Islam has to offer. We're not going to be perfect. And when you know you've made a mistake, you have to take that opportunity to go to that person immediately and correct that situation. That's powerful. I've done it. I humbled myself. I went to that person, and those people become some of my best friends and biggest supporters. And they're non-Muslims who show up at Islamic events when Muslims won't go, because of those types of interactions. So that's kind of all I have to say. I love the commentary that I've heard today. And I think we're all searching for that direction to get us past the types of events that happened in San Diego, and then what recently happened in Houston. And I've heard that there's been an event in Detroit as well. So that these things don't happen, that people think twice before they act against a community that they have to acknowledge actually really supports them and supports the best for them. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam. Thank you, brother Willis. That's absolutely on point. Thank you so much.
Profound.
So, Cheryl, I want to get to the point that you mentioned as far as looking for the fix as opposed to engaging in the fight.
Or just the fight.
Just the fight.
Just the fight. Yeah, I think we still need a fight, but not focusing only on the fight.
Okay. I think that in this society and maybe in other places in the world, we're just looking at what exists here in America. The emphasis is on the fight, just culturally, the American culture. And we have engaged in so many wars in the past 250 years that if we look at the number of wars, we've been engaged in war almost the majority of the time that the country has existed. And so I think that this brings about what people consider a mindset that you are conditioned for confrontation, combat, fighting. You know, this religious attachment to the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. You know, everybody has to have their peace, their for an example, in DC, who's going to go up to the White House with a handgun and think you're going to do anything? You know, so either was a setup or a performance, or people are that far off, that irrational, that deranged, that they would engage in that behavior. But when you look at all that all that the culture spurns, all of the police shows, all of the action movies, all of the games, and people say, "Oh, well, that doesn't have any effect on us." But Allah created Adam sounding clay, sounding clay. You have a response. Those things have an effect on our brain, on how we think, how we make decisions. So, I know there's a lot of criticism in terms of, well, this society we don't need any more kumbaya moments, holding hands and rocking side to side of kumbaya. But I think that even from on an individual level, even in our family and the upbringing of our youth and our children, I think it was 2000 W.D. Muhammad High School in Atlanta. They have a theme, and I think that the theme that year was the peacemakers. And that's so important, that if we have a vision of ourselves as the peacemakers, sincere peacemakers. I don't mean these phony deals that you put together and say it's peace and you're still killing people. I'm not talking about that. But if we have the mindset of peacemakers and bring that energy in the society, that it can have an effect on those that we interact with. And even sometimes people just look at you from a distance and may not interact with you close up. But if we have the mindset and if we have the characteristics of peacemakers, then we can work to bringing about more peace in our society. And then also we have to realize one point in our conversation last week with Imam Muhammad Abdul Alim, when we talk about Shura, and he went over the point that Shura is not democracy. Shura is coming to a consensus, and consensus is so important in terms of when you say motivate people to move people. In democracy, you get that majority that says, okay, we're going to go this way. But that doesn't mean that the necessary movement that you need of people to bring into reality what was the majority vote is going to really happen. And I think that we're seeing that in the society today. Emancipation Proclamation, end of slavery, but there was not a consensus to hold on to that. So therefore, you still have this core of Confederacy I think it was in April, there was like a National Confederate Day and whatnot. And so the difference between the democracy and the consensus, I may not have come to the point where that I was on the side of what was agreed to be the course of action. But in a consensus, I have to commit myself to, although this was not my point of view, and after we had discussion and after we had our disagreements and everything, and we land on a point that may not have been my point that I supported, but in the consensus situation, I commit myself that, okay, the group decided this, I will support it. And that's the difference between um, the, the, the call to action that brings about the movement, because you have more who are working towards the goal that has been set, and you have um, increased the possibility of the goal being reached because you have more of a commitment. You understand what I'm saying? So if I'm overruled, and let's say the three of us, Fleming, Cheryl, and myself, all right, we have something that we're going to decide on for MAP5. Two of you have one point of view, I have another. All right, so democracy, okay, well then we'll go with the two of you said. But unless, being that third party that's involved, unless I commit myself to giving up what I was holding on to, I have to commit myself to say, okay, we're going to go this direction because in order for it to be successful, the three of us have to be committed to making this come about. And I think that is the difficulty that we experience in our families. You know, the Shura has to start in the family and in our community life. And this concept of Shura, and I was so happy when Imam last week went to the definition of the Arabic word, talking about gathering honey. And so in the Shura process, there is a healing, just as the honey has a healing property. And it's so beautiful that Allah gives us the picture of the bee in the Quran. I think that we can work more in our individual lives to utilize the concepts of Shura, and also to have the mindset of the peacemaker. And with the combination of those two aspects, we can bring about a healing in ourselves and our families and in the communities that we live in, whether it's the religious community or the secular community. But if we just put on those characteristics, and I believe that the example that we have in our prophet is someone who embodied all of that. So I just wanted to say that a couple of points that you and Fleming and Mahassan had made just kind of put all that together in my head.
Alhamdulillah.
Thank you. Alhamdulillah. I wanted to wrap this today with a couple of things that I've been thinking about this a lot, especially when it comes to, in the last or so, I've done a couple of retreats, and speaking, one was a youth retreat, or young woman, not youth, young woman retreat, and one was just a women's retreat, all women, but one was specifically geared towards young women, and young women of faith, and it was just all it was Christians, it was Muslim, mostly Christian and Muslim, a few Jewish women. And one of the things that, and I'm always asked this question about, are there moments when you have a you know, a shaking, a question or doubt of faith? And I think, and this will call for a longer conversation, but I do think that this is important that we have these kind of conversations, especially with our circles, and I don't think we have them enough. So when I was speaking to some of the, especially young women or women who've been through something, and this may be men, I can't speak for you guys, you have to speak on your own, but people who've been through traumatic situations tend to have this question more than other people that I've encountered in my experience. And my answer has been this, and it was something that I often go back to, I don't call it shaken faith, I call it fragile faith. We have moments of fragility in our faith. And what I said to them was this, my road to healing from a broken body. You wake up one day and your body's not the same as you remembered it, from a injury and not being able to walk or move. Now walk, but move the way that you remembered it is a strike to your it is a strike to it's hard, right? And it's fraught with moments of self-doubt and questioning, and it is fraught with fragile faith and shaken confidence. Yet, despite that painful suffering, you get to choose how you move forward. You get to choose how unstoppable you will be in your drive. And I think that that's how I believe we should be having these conversations about how we have interactions with other people about Islam and being Muslim. These are choices of how we have these conversations. And our commitment to live our lives and have these public discourse has to be conscious decisions of how we not just interact. What Brother Edward said earlier is exactly how I don't go to work and have, dialogue that is Muslim. It's how I carry myself every day. And someone eventually asked me, it's actually pretty funny because once I had been working with someone for nearly a decade, and one woman finally asked me, she said, "Wait, are you Muslim?" And I laughed. And I said, yes. And she asked me one time, I think it was after Ramadan, when I said, they asked me, we were having a potluck at work, which I don't put my luck in a pot, just FYI. And I said, I'm fasting. And she said, oh, you fasting? Oh, I fast during, I think she said during Lent or something. I said, no, it's Ramadan. And she said, oh, wait, you're Muslim? Now, at what point did you think that this was like decoration or part of my outfits? Or maybe she thought this was like, some kind of fashion statement. Not sure, but, I didn't hold it against her. But I do recall back in when I was working at Sony, one lady just thought it was great fashion because I do change the colors. I change them, sometimes the silk, change the materials. I change the way that I tie this my hijab. So it's not always the same way. And one woman she was very honest. She just said, because I remember back in the 50s and the 60s, Greta Garbo, I think is her name, one of the actresses, and Raquel Welch, and some of those women used to wear scarves. It's very fashionable. Yes, thank you very much for that.
I think she was pulling your leg, Cheryl.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Yeah.
Okay.
No. She looked very innocent when she said it too, so thank you very much for that. So I do think that that's important, but I do think that it's, having that conversation that not everybody is so, every answer does not have to be the Quran says, Hadith says. Sometimes it's just, and I think that that's what shakes people who have questions, right? Who are going through those moments is to talk to them from a place of solid knowledge, and just instead of making them feel like that you have to have memorized every Quranic verse and every hadith, or they're something's wrong with them. So that was the feedback that I got back. So I just wanted to say that I don't think there's one person who's walking this earth, or who we all have known ever, who has not had some moment where it's like, oh my gosh, oh my goodness. I try not to be like, why me or whatever question, but I'm not going to tell you that I've never done it. Because some days it's like, look here, I'm a good person. I've done everything I'm supposed to do. And it's pain. I mean, that pain is that when that pain hits you at 2 a.m. Like, why can't you get the people who just do wrong all the time? So anyway, that's what I wanted to say. Go ahead, brother Fleming. I see you came off mute. Go ahead.
Cute. I'm trying to keep it down to 30 seconds.
Yes, sir. Yes. Yeah.
Two things very quickly. My mind went back to my grandmother, and I would watch her take rags around her feet, and I would always sit to her right side on the floor, and she would take these rags and eventually make a quilt out of those rags, right? And she would say, bruh, every eye closed ain't shut, every goodbye ain't gone. And she spoke like that most of the time, and she lived to be 102 and was never in the hospital, by the grace of Allah. But she spoke like that all the time. She said, listen, I want to go when I go visit her in South Carolina. And she grew up as a sharecropper. I've got to go talk to the trees. I said, what in the world is my grandmama talking about? Talk to the trees. What she meant, she knew how to go into the woods and get whatever herbs or leaves, etc., to make a tea to solve our medical problems. If it was a cold or anything like that, she knew what to get to handle a fever. And I guess her mother, who I had a chance to meet, my great grandmother Cora Lee, had taught her those things. And so all the time I wish I had written down what my grandmother said. My grandfather wasn't quite as eloquent. That's who I'm named after. I called him a PhD in curtsiology, but he got his message across. He was just a little bit rough on the edges. He and my grandmother were friends, so much so they would share a Kool-Aid every now and then together. And I'll let you use your own imagination of what the Kool-Aid consisted of.
Did you
But
say curseology? Curseology?
curseology, yes, curseology.
Okay, I'm gonna have to give me one of them. I don't have that degree. I'm gonna have to look that one up. I need that degree.
Yeah. But he was an effective communicator, and what he said, he meant. And he was not a joker. He was a very serious man. And at the same time, he was a trustee of a church that he had found. But you would think because of his rough exterior, he would rather shoot you than talk to you. But that was not his reality. He was a very kind-hearted person. He just didn't play. And if you told him something, you took your hand on it, you didn't want to see him until you did what you said you to him you were going to do, because he would remind you, you know. I'm just remembering those two people because they were very influential in my life growing up, and they always accept responsibility. And when you were saying that about what's our responsibility behind this whole tragedy in San Diego, our life example should be one of proof against that kind of insanity. Our life example, not our preaching example, but our life example should be such that people say, "Oh, are you a Muslim?" I've had that happen to me several times. You know? So our life example should demonstrate what the reality is to be Muslim by the grace of Allah in America. So let's accept some of that responsibility ourselves. Are we doing enough, often enough, to demonstrate the true life of a Muslim in whatever capacity you can, so people know the difference? Inshallah.
Love it.
I use my 30 seconds.
Love
So
it.
we have a comment in the chat. Sister Hajjata had to leave. And her comment was, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, transformed revelation into action. He fed people, established justice, taught knowledge, built community, honored human dignity, and responded to society with wisdom and mercy. Following his example means turning faith into responsible service to humanity.
Mm. You know, I wanted to recognize Sister Khalida Akbar too. She didn't say anything. She didn't raise her hand, but she has been present during the entire program. And so she's also from North Carolina, so I have to recognize her.
There was more Carolinians jump.
All right, Sister Akbar.
Sister Mahassan has her hand up.
Go ahead.
Mahassan?
Yes, yes. Sister Khalida is not there. She's not there. Okay.
Yeah, we'll get her. We'll get her after you.
Okay.
We only have a few minutes left. We're already over time. Let's go ahead.
I'm going to condense it. I'm not going to set a seconds limit like Brother Fleming so sweetly does. But I'm holding in my hand as I'm enjoying the listening process to this beautiful program, MAP5, a book that was given to me base, and it stimulated me to pull it off my shelf when he spoke about his grandmother's words. The title of this book is What Keeps Me Standing. And as Tavis Smiley said, thanks to God for the courage, conviction, and commitment of Black grandmothers. Thanks to Dennis Kimbrough for sharing their inspirations. So it's a book of letters from Black grandmothers on peace, hope, and inspiration. But this is so valuable to us and makes me thoroughly convinced of one thing, that as Allah, especially in the Ayatul Kursi, says of that ayat, that it is so comprehensive in guidance to living the life that God created for us, that only Allah contains and distributes and shares that kind of comprehensiveness. So we notice the valued wisdom that our foreparents always spoke in the parables, the similitudes, and the examples that they shared, like what Brother Fleming quoted his grandmother. And Allah gave them long life, 103, 105. My great grandmother lived to be 114. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
And left a wealth with us. And I'm striving to pass some of that, inshallah, retained by me, onto my children and grandchildren. Still striving. Thank you. Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you. Did you have any last comments, Sister Amatullah, Brother Fleming, before we?
I do. One thing I wanted to make sure that we honor the men and women who gave their lives in service to this country. Since this is Memorial Day. And that we pray and we hope that we don't have to have many more who give their lives in service to this country. The point in terms of why me, and the point in terms of Quran and Hadith. Why me? Yes, many of us, if not all of us, may have that thought or might even say it. Why not you? Or why not me is a way to look at it too. You know, Allah gave us the mercy of life. And as he tells us in the Quran, do you not think that you would be left alone in saying that you believe and not be tried? And we all have different trials. My trial, what might be a trial for me, may not be a trial for you or for the next person. Just like sometimes people use this analogy, the trial is you see the test as an example of one example people use is, well, you build up your muscle. You build up the muscle of faith when you have the test. If you don't have the test, how do you know that you sincerely believe? Allah already knows. So the test and the trial is not for Allah, it's for us to know where we stand at a particular time. How many times have, for an example, someone was just telling me about this, my daughter. A student was in a class not knowing, hadn't gotten any test results, any kind of indication of where their grade was at the point. And the day of when they had to opt for a no pass or for a grade for the class, because the student knew she was having difficulty, but she didn't know, am I failing this class? My graduation is 3 days away. I need to take some action. So what am I saying with that? If we don't have a test, we don't know where we stand as far as how sincere are we in our faith. Are we only in it when everything is going good? Or are we like the hypocrites who say, oh, I can't go into battle. That's not looking good, or I got something else to do. But then when the victory is when it's like, yeah, I knew we could do it, blah, 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 blah. So that's what I would say on the thing about the fragility of faith. And we just have to check ourselves and question ourselves and say, well, am I sincere in what I'm doing? Am I sincere in my faith? Am I sincere in my prayers? Am I sincere when I read the Quran? Am I just reading it passively, or am I reading it for the guidance? When we say, when we say, show us the straight way, guide us on the straight way, am I truly asking for guidance, or am I just into the ritualistic reciting of the verse? And then the other thing in terms of the conversation, especially as we do interfaith or as we do dawah, whatever our activities might be with non-Muslims, and also with maybe people who feel that they are atheists or agnostic. the language that we use. When we are in the circle of Muslims, we should feel comfortable in quoting Quran and Hadith, and our leader Imam Muhammad and other Islamic scholars, as a way of reinforcing ourselves and adding to the knowledge of one another. When Fleming makes a comment about something, that adds to my arsenal. I might be in a situation where outside of our Muslim circle, where I'm dealing with people in the community, and he said, I can recall back, oh, he said this, and I can pull on that. So when we use our source materials, being the Quran, the Hadith, the life example of the Prophet, and some of the companions, and what they did in situations that they faced in life, that is the appropriate thing. As a public speaking, they'll tell you, and also entertainers, they'll tell you, know your audience. And you have to use the language, and you have to play to the audience that you're in. And that should determine the language that you use. And so that was just a comment I had on some of the things that we've talked about. And pray Allah that those of us who are able to fast tomorrow, the day of Arafat, that we will fast. If we're not able to fast, that we'll do some good deed. Also, those who will be making the sacrifice of the Qurbani, to do that. Also, Tawhida referenced how the Prophet fed people. Brother Fleming shared with us how he shared that those meals, those plates with that lady that came into their celebration. So we have, as far as a call to action or movement or motions that we can do, those are good things that we can do in the next 2 days and going forward. And for all of those who've joined us, we pray that Allah bless you with the blessed Eid, projected to be on Wednesday, the 27th, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Can I take 2 seconds? We have time. 2
Absolutely.
seconds. When I was on Umrah, going around the Kaaba, one thing came to mind, we're told that if we have one atom's weight of good, we'll be rewarded. All these people around this queue, and the other side of their coin is if you have one atom weight of mischief in some books or wrongdoing, you be held accountable. I said, wow, what does what does that represent? And I finally read a book yesterday that said an atom's ounce is the weight of an ant.
Mm.
So if you have the weight of an ant in you, Allah will reward you for it. But if you have an ant's weight of wrong, you got to be held accountable for that. So inshallah, we'll stay balanced and know that every human being you see comes from Almighty God, Allah, and Allah don't make no junk. Don't like
Alhamdulillah.
Walaikum assalam. I will say that what I appreciate and admire the most, that even in these circles where people are Muslim, that one of the things I learned a long time ago from Brother Al-Ghani, may Allah be pleased with him, is that he used to say something that I was really young when I came back to California. I was, I think I was 20, 21. I think I was a grad student. I just know that. And Sister Sophia and Sawa, his daughters, I was hanging out with them, and Brother Al-Ghani said something like, it was the quote from Malcolm X that said, it was something like, we shouldn't, I'm going to say the essence of it. I don't remember the exact quote, but it was something like, not looking down on people who don't know what you know, because there was a time that you didn't know what you didn't know. Right? And he used this example of a garden. And then in a garden, there are flowers and roses of different sizes. And he's saying that not all the roses are going to be open. There's rose buds, there's small roses, there's mid-sized, and then there's some full bloom. And then there's just some of the stems that haven't even got a rose blood on. There's some weeds. You won't mess with the weeds. And he said, Muslims are like those flowers. Everybody's growing at a different rate, and they're at a different pace, and they're different stages of their growth in Islam. So just because someone says they're Muslim does not mean that they're all that full-blown flower. So what I appreciate, not everybody does it, but I know that you guys do. What I appreciate the most is not the presumption that someone says, Muslim, that everybody understands everything that you're saying. Because I know when you guys start talking about Nation Islam, I'm over here like, I don't know what you're talking about.
You should ask us.
I do. I do sometimes. I do anyway. But I know not everybody's comfortable doing that. Because when you start saying those addresses, like, what is that? Something Woodlawn or something in Chicago?
4847 Woodlawn Avenue.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know what they talk. What are you talking about? So stuff like that, right? Or you start quoting something from Philadelphia and okay, that's great, but I don't know. So, but what I do like is that you'll say it and then you'll come back. It's sort of like acronyms. I'm really good at this. If I'm gonna say an acronym, I say what it means, especially in science or when I'm talking water or I'm talking, ecology or environment or something like that. And I know that there's several of you on here who are really, really good at that. If you say something, you'll say, what that is this, right? And Brother Fleming, you're really good at this when you do a Arabic prayer, you'll translate it into English. The presumption is everybody knows what you're saying because most people are Muslim, but there could be some who are not. I'm really good at inviting people who are not Muslim to listen to the show.
Good.
And I'm very good at sending the link because I have a lot of friends who are just like, send me a link to your show. I want to listen to the show. They just like listen to the show. And so I think that when we talked about dawah earlier, and we talked about getting people to understand, our humanity and getting people to not think that, Islam is this boogeyman. I think that that's really, really important.
Yeah.
That even though we are speaking to each other in this forum, we're actually speaking to other people.
Yeah.
So it is important to not just presume that only Muslims and well-educated in Quran and Hadith Muslims are listening to this program, either in real time or later when they download it. So maybe when we do say something that's Quranic or something that points to Hadith, we say the reference and we say what that means. And we do say, if we do see something that's in Arabic or whatever, we give the context because that is very helpful. I have friends who come back and tell me that was very helpful when you guys said something and then you translated it to English, or you gave a meaning and you say, oh, here is what that it coincides to the biblical or whatever. That it does bring people back in who can then make that correlation to themselves. So I think that is really, and when we're talking the fight, when we talk about the fight and the fix, for me, that is the fix. That's part of the fix anyway, right? So, because the fight is, how do we get people to stop seeing us as something other than, to start seeing our humanity. And part of the fix is we have a responsibility in that it's not to just speak into an echo chamber, is to widen our audience so that we can have that kind of dialogue and still maintain our core values. And that's not coming outside of our core values. And it's not that much of an effort because we're already doing it for the most part. So I just wanted to say that because I know that most of the time we're doing it anyway. So that said, I want to close this out. We're done, but I think it was a great discussion because I think it needed to happen. Check-in is always good. It's anything that's going to challenge our thinking, make, normalize checking in really good, is always good. Make it contagious. Make it contagious. And the last thing I'll say, I'm gonna give you a different saying this week. I'm gonna give you the one that I always say. My grandmother always says, change the way you look at things, and the things you look at will also change. But I'm gonna give you a different one this week because I was reading through my notes and I wanted to tell you that this one actually is from my mom. But I think she got it from my grandmother. So you still get grandma's words, but through my mom, via my mom. And
Okay.
she used to tell me that I learned this lesson young in life. So I want to tell you that I did not understand it as a small child, but I do understand it now. She said the most powerful influence in life is rarely loud. She said that because I have my voice is not loud. My brothers have these loud voices. My cousins have these loud voices. And I never had a loud voice, as in volume. I had this little pipsqueak voice. And I always did. I'm like number 4 of 6. And I used to get really upset because I was like, nobody can hear me. When you're in a house of 6 children, even the 2 under me, they had these, everyone was loud. And I used to get really just. And my mother said she would come and whisper, and she would say the most powerful influence is rarely loud. And she's right. I'm the most influential out of all of us. I just have to find my voice a different way. And she was right. I didn't know then, but she was right. I figured it out, but yes, she was right. So I wanted to say that to all of you. Stay powerful, stay prayerful, especially at this time. Stay politically involved, stay philanthropic, and stay civically engaged. For those of you involved in your primaries, if you have not already voted, please vote and take at least 5 people with you and tell those 5 people to take 5 people. And we can really make a difference in our communities. We shouldn't have to say that, but I'm going to say it anyway. What you do or don't do will affect your community. So tell everybody. It is a responsibility. Here in California, the deadline is the 2nd. You must get those ballots in no later than June 2nd. Do not rely. I'm telling everybody across the country, do not rely on the post office. Do not rely on that stamp. It is not reliable this time around. We know the rule hasn't passed, but we know shenanigans will happen. So my advice to you is to take it in. I'm not even mailing mine. All 5 of them are here with me. I'm going to take them in. And I'm going to hand them. So either take it to your registrar of voters at your county office or take it into your polling place. There will be lines. It's okay. You've waited on lines for TVs for Black Friday. You waited online for the new Jordans. You waited online for your favorite whatever for holidays or whatever. You can wait online to vote. I know. And don't act like you ain't waiting in line for something else. You can wait online to vote. Drink your water before you get there. No, or don't. If you one of the people have to run to the restroom all the time, don't drink. Don't drink. It'll be okay. You will survive 5 hours. If you have to wait 5 hours, wait 5 hours. You'll be okay. They're obligated to give you 4 hours off work, either before or after the post goes. So you take your 4 hours if you're working. If you're retired, you ain't no problem. Go vote. There's no excuse. Not one excuse not to vote. You have absolutely no reason to vote. You don't like somebody in a particular race, that's up to you. But you have no reason not to vote. Period. I'm not telling you how to vote. I'm just telling you to vote. To vote. If you don't know if you are registered to vote, it's a little late, but you need to be voting. If you have questions about your ballot, if you need to talk it out, if you have some what do you call those initiatives or measures on your ballot, you want to talk it out with somebody, you can reach out. I'm sure Brother Fleming, I'm gonna volunteer him for you East Coast people. But Sister Amatullah and I are on the West Coast. You can reach out to any one of us, and we'll be glad to walk you through it. Now, if you call me, I'm gonna tell you how to vote. So don't call me, because I'm gonna tell you which person to vote for. And I said that on the record. Now, you can call me, and I'm gonna tell you which person or which measure to vote for. And full disclaimer, I ain't voting for no more taxes. So there. Not a one. I ain't moving no taxes. None. Until they show me where the money is. Now, with that, that's my PSA for today. Vote. Vote. Now, so did you want to add anything to that? Because that's all I have to say. Brother Fleming, what's up for next week? Sister Amatullah, what's up for the week after? And then Brother Fleming's going to close out in prayer.
Yes. Next week, inshallah, we'll have 3 guests. They're going to all be talking about the need to be civically engaged to improve the quality of life in your community.
And on June 8th, Imam Muhammad Abdul Alim will be back on the chronic foundations of African American citizenship.
Oh, beautiful. All right. All right, brother. We'll close this out.
We'll close this out in English this time with the last surah of the Holy Quran, inshallah. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. I seek refuge in the Lord and church of mankind, the King or ruler of mankind, the Allah judge of mankind, from the evil whisperer, the same who whispers into the hearts among men and jinn, then withdraws after his whisper. Amen.
Amen. And with that, you beautiful, magnificent, smart, confident, cool, intelligent, unapologetic, powerful, sweet, resilient people. That is, you see, I said that that's what was behind me, in case you didn't grab that.
I got you.
That, people, is a wrap. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.